Learn more about how you can have a positive impact on a volunteer's experience coming up on my episode of Let's Talk Nonprofits at bizlinks.tv.
Let's Talk Nonprofits is sponsored by Renaissance Christian Academy and Brene Foundation. Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Let's Talk Nonprofits, platform and show where we discuss how to increase of the awareness, funding, sustainability, and ultimately the impact of nonprofit organizations. And we do that through engaging conversation with thought leaders, those who are experts to help businesses operate and function well, and also by interviewing nonprofit leaders. And today is no exception. Today we have one of those who is a contributing thought leader and author about content to help nonprofit organizations from a volunteer perspective. So we are glad to have with us here today Mr. Barry Altland.
Yes, my pleasure. My pleasure to be here.
Hey, we're so excited. We met a good while ago, last year sometime, and you were doing great things at that time with an outstanding organization in the area, and we couldn't wait to bring you on the show to share with the audience the great content that you have. Okay. So welcome. And before we get started, we would like to also remind you to please look at all of our episodes that can be found on www.bizlinks.tv. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/bizlinkstv, youtube.com/bizlinkstv. And again, subscribe to those channels and like those channels, and more importantly, guys, engage with us. We have some great comments that come about when you hear these great conversations that take place and you get these great nuggets, so we're excited about it. Share it with others, and again, engage with us so that we can share with our guests the comments that you're providing. So we're going to get into today's conversation, and we're going to talk about volunteering, and it really starts from the focus of getting the volunteers engaged. So I would like, Barry, for you to first just tell everyone about you, your company, and introduce your book to us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the book is Engaging the Head, Heart, and Hands of a Volunteer. And I've built a bit of a cottage business around this, Head, Heart, and Hands Engagement Collective. Yeah. And essentially what I do is I share the message, the good news of this book with a lot of different volunteer-supported organizations. So I've even broadened the category of nonprofit organizations to include volunteer-supported organizations. Yeah. Because a lot of churches and Boy Scout troops and Little Leagues and all of those organizations, they so rely on volunteers, but they don't really think of themselves in the typical NPO category. That's right. So I really I target any organization who relies on volunteers to make magic happen.
Very good, very good. So now that Barry has expanded his target reach, that should include many more of you out there. So we're asking that you reach out to Barry, find out how you can get his book, which you will later on in the show, but find out how the content of his message can help you increase your volunteer effectiveness and engagement. So, Barry, let's talk about how did the book come about?
Yeah. Well, I discovered through my own service experiences that I was having this dichotomy of experiences. Sometimes they were really enriching and fulfilling, and other times not so much. And as I've traveled around and I've gotten involved in a lot of different organizations and a lot of different capacities, it dawned on me that there's so many people out there in this world who just want to do good. Yeah. And as they're out there doing good and they're offering their time and their talents, after a little research, I realized that there's typically somebody in an organization, whether they see themselves as a leader or not, there's somebody that's in a role of influence that can have an impact on that volunteer's experience. And that impact can be powerful. Yeah. And sometimes powerful in a really positive way, and sometimes not so much. So that's really the genesis of the book. Okay. Is it's focused on those who are in that role of influence, a leader, if you will, and really gives them not just big picture conceptual guidance, but also daily practical guidance, things that they can implement on a daily basis to be able to have a positive impact on a volunteer's experience.
And we like that here on this show. We like to be able to take those nuggets and implement them. So again, guys, I know you have your pens and papers and your pads and taking great notes, but we're about to get into it, because what I would like to just find out briefly, and you know, we like to give it away here on the show, because then we know you're going to get more when you purchase the book, but the central message of the book, what would you say?
Yeah, you know, it's really about this concept of otherliness.
Okay.
And I love throwing that word out in workshops, because it's not really a word,
Right.
but yet people really kind of get what it means.
Okay.
And I officially define that as placing the needs and wants and desires of others ahead of our own. So it really encourages leaders, the central message of the book encourages leaders to put the individual volunteer's needs ahead of all other needs, which is a different way of thinking for a lot of people
it really
who serve
is.
organizations, because they think, oh, it's about the mission, it's about the beneficiary and the cause and all those things. And all those things are important. But if you place the individual volunteer's needs and wants and desires and get them aligned with their skills and their passion to doing a role that really feeds them, and then you just get out of their way and you let them do what they do, then everybody wins in that process.
Barry, I would say for me, and maybe I'm in this small bubble, that's a very revolutionary thought. Because one, from a business perspective, and again, you know, here on this show, we definitely look at nonprofits as businesses. But you're either saying the client is always right, which, you know, we can have a discussion later. But then the next thing is focusing on the employees. But here you are, you're saying an organization that's supported by the engagement of volunteers, that they can be more effective if they begin to focus on making them a priority, the volunteers.
Yeah, I really explore this concept of motivation in the book, and there's only two types that exist: intrinsic and extrinsic.
Right.
And when we talk about volunteers, people who choose to serve, intrinsic motivation is wholly at play.
Yeah.
So they're there for a reason. There's something in their heart that's calling them to serve in your organization.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is find out what that is. And then once you find out, I call that a discovery conversation, and I really give some specific guidance on how to engage in that conversation. Okay. So you find out what's stirring, what's compelling that person to present and serve. And once you find that out, you help them, you support them as they get aligned with a role that feeds that need. And once you're doing that, again, you really just set them loose, and that's when the good stuff happens.
Barry, nugget number one, amongst the others you probably already wrote, I'm hearing you say, I as a business owner and leader, and I'm hearing you say, empower them. That's what, I mean, empower them to the point where I'm hearing you saying, you correct me if I'm wrong, that once you get them aligned and sitting in the right seat on the bus, that you then encourage them to be creative in doing what they do. In other words, you're giving them free reign. You're not just saying, as a volunteer, like I typically think, okay, Barry, thank you for volunteering with us. These are the things they would like for you to get done or to do. But we restrict and confine. Are you giving license as you would a valued employee for that particular volunteer to expand their...
Possibly,
Okay.
possibly. I have a section of the book where I talk about the time and talent matrix.
Okay.
And we acknowledge that there are some volunteers who will just present for a single volunteer opportunity.
Right.
And then we have, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have dedicated volunteers who serve with an organization for a long time. We also have roles that don't require a whole lot of skill or knowledge to be able to perform.
Yeah.
And then we have volunteer roles that require a significant amount of gifts to be able to do well. So I really look at those two elements, two axes, if you will, on a matrix, and then I come up with 4 different quadrants that give some more specific guidance.
I like that.
So the answer is yes, but not always.
Yeah, I like
not
that.
always. Sometimes if somebody just shows up and they say, hey, I'm here to serve today.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we just help them to get aligned with one of the 4 defined roles. But you got somebody who's all the way in and they're ready to serve and they're ready to give everything that they have, then yeah, let's help them to really find something that's going to feed their passion in a
truly a part of
meaningful
the
way.
team.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then you have that ability to just be able to support them. The 4 words that I use for leaders are to equip, guide, support, and inspire. And that's in stark contrast to this traditional leadership concept of command and control. Yeah. So that's really the guidance, and then I build out a lot of specific ideas that leaders can embrace and apply to be able to make that come alive.
Very good. Barry, I tell you, it is very refreshing to hear that, and again, from a volunteer engagement point of view, because one, like you just indicated, a lot of leaders do just bark command, but here you're subscribing to what I believe in, that servant leadership piece, which really inspires the person to go beyond what is just written down. So great. Guys, I want you to remember that as you're operating your nonprofit organizations, many of you just bring in people for volunteering, you're just looking for volunteer recruitment, but I'm hearing great nuggets of how to get them engaged, how to keep them, and how to have them help make a meaningful impact in terms of your social focus. So again, Barry, thank you for sharing that. I want to ask about this before we go to the break. And in fact, let's get into it right after break. But what I'm going to ask is about what can leaders do to enhance that volunteer engagement, all right?
Yeah.
So after the break, we want to thank our sponsors. We'll come back and we'll continue this discussion, again, talking about engaging volunteers effectively. Thank you, and we'll see you after the break.
What happens when soldiers come home? Brene Foundation offers hero support to ensure that our heroes abroad can continue to be heroes at home. We link veterans with organizations who are dedicated to guiding the transition from military hero to civilian hero. If you want to find out how you can support our troops at home, please contact the Brene Foundation or visit brene.com.
Does your son need a more challenging, focused, and encouraging educational environment? Renaissance Christian Academy is an affordable private school for boys located in McDonough, Georgia, with certified teachers that are uniquely equipped to help your son master learning. You're welcome to schedule a tour of our facilities by calling 770-305-9881 or by visiting our website at rcaboysacademy.org. Renaissance Christian Academy, developing young men to be great leaders through Christ-centered learning.
We thank all of our sponsors for making this opportunity possible. And again, we ask that you support them. We're going to continue with our conversation around volunteer engagement. And we're here with Barry Altland, and the author of Engaging the Head, the Heart, and Hands of a Volunteer. I love that, the head, the heart, and the hands. We often think of the volunteer. That's what we think about, the hands. But you're talking about the head and the heart. So, guys, I know it may be different for some of you, new concept. We want to hear your feedback on that. What do you think about what Barry is offering to the sector? And those of you who have been doing this and you resonate with it, we want to hear from you as well. And we will be sure to make sure that Barry gets this information that that you share. So I want to go and talk about, with this great concept, and like I say, brings to mind to me about servant leader, what can leaders do to enhance that volunteer engagement?
Well, the book really drives this message home that engagement happens one person at a time.
Okay.
So, especially in larger nonprofit organizations and volunteer-supported organizations, we try to do so much at the macro level. Yeah. And I really encourage leaders to think about what they can do more at the micro level to touch the hearts of an individual. And two of the most simple things that we can do to enhance communication, to keep those lines open, one is to provide feedback. And I have a very specific model in the book that I offer that really helps a leader to grow their feedback skills and to be able to offer words of guidance in a meaningful way as well. I encourage leaders to do what I call coaching, which means just setting aside dedicated time to sit down and have a really meaningful conversation with a dedicated volunteer and to just talk about two things: their performance, how are they doing in their role, and their development, how do they want to grow. So those are two really simple nuggets that leaders can put into action to really enhance the volunteer experience.
Gary, I don't know what's up with that, but Barry, I'm telling you, and I'm holding back because I know we have limited time, but I'm really, I mean, I was familiar with your book when we met last time, but I am really excited about it because as we're going to get into further down, you know, this is not just applicable to the nonprofit sector and even those things, but I see business leaders benefiting from this because those principles that you're teaching, that strategy of coaching can just exponentially impact a business. So let me just go there. You know, talk about that. How would this translate into a for-profit sector?
Well, you know, truth be told, so much of these leadership principles are actually borrowed from the for-profit sector.
Okay.
That's where primarily my experience is. I was a learning and development guy, leadership development, organizational development practitioner for many, many years, but yet I saw in the volunteer-supported world that these things were not really happening. So it was a chance to take those really practical leadership components and be able to apply them to the volunteer supported space.
I like that.
And the reality is that yes, these tips, this guidance works equally well in the for-profit world. And I call it the 1-2 punch.
Okay.
Imagine if somebody can actually pay for their life responsibilities through their compensation and also feed their passion at the same time. Now, leaders can help make that happen even in the for-profit space.
Now, you also have the concept and the thought that there are leaders in organizations who don't necessarily see themselves as leaders. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, sure. When I really started pondering it, and this hit me late in the writing game, so it's not even really in the book, but there's a truth that came to me. It punched me in the face, really, one day and said, why are leaders not already doing this? And it dawned on me, it's because a lot of leaders don't even realize that they're a leader. Because they're just somebody who's doing something good. They sort of fell backwards into a role that has some responsibility. Now they're providing a little bit of guidance and direction to others, but they don't look in the mirror and see a leader. So of course it makes perfect sense that they're not practicing sound leadership principles when they don't even realize that they're in a leadership role.
Right, very good point. Guys, you know, again, I hope you caught that. That's very, very, very important. And I'm sure many people on your team that are doing great jobs are finding themselves in that category. So you need to look and assess and find those individuals and bring to the conscious level for them that they are true leaders who are having an impact. And I'm just impressed, Barry. I really am, because again, this principle that you've taken that focuses on leaders in the traditional sense, but for volunteers. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to allow Barry to bring us home and close us out. But guys, there are many of you out there, and I know several of you, we have conversations and you reach out about how to get volunteers and how to keep them engaged, and you know, so you've got turnover and those things right here. I would strongly encourage you to get the book, and you know, and Barry, go ahead and tell them how can they get
Yeah, absolutely. So Engaging the Head, Heart, and Hands of a Volunteer is available in all the major retail outlets. But certainly I encourage folks, if you want a signed version of the book, I am honored to sign a book. And the best way to do it is to Google HHH Engagement or to go to hhhengagement.com and you'll find the book there.
Yeah. Listen, guys, I'm not going to repeat what he just said in terms of the site, but you know, you see it at the bottom of the on the lower thirds. Please reach out. This right here, I believe, is a very revolutionary approach to volunteer focus, and I would tell you that Barry, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are they able to reach out to you personally through social media or anything like this, or maybe having you come out to speak to their audience?
Yes, absolutely, yes. Yeah, I'm available to speak in many organizations. I've been doing this over the last year, and I'm continuing to do so.
Yeah, guys, again, you know, we just don't bring anybody on. You know, we're going to bring somebody that has something to contribute to the positive growth of those areas that we look about: awareness, funding, sustainability. Well, this right here hits at the heart of sustainability and impact, but also those fundings, because again, once you get those volunteers that are really operating at that efficiency level, they contribute to that, even if they're not directly in the funding space in your organization. But Barry, I want you to tell you that I'm totally impressed. I would definitely make sure that our followers, viewers, and even those who engage understand the significance of the content of this book, and particularly, again, I'm not aware of, and again, anybody that's out there, content about volunteers beyond the traditional sense about how to acquire them. We want to hear from you. And those of you who find that this is revolutionary, such as myself, please share as well. Barry, would you again tell them how they can reach you and contact you in the way that's best?
Yeah, so I'm available on all major social media, and my direct email is headhearthandsengagement@gmail.com, and the book again is available on the website at hhhengagement.com.
Guys, listen, and before we go, Barry, you're full of wisdom, and so before you leave, any parting words you would just like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, it's really about leaders remembering that engagement happens one person at a time, and they're in a unique role to be able to touch the hearts of every person who chooses to serve for their organization. So I just encourage them to really embrace that every single day.
There you have it. Barry Altland, author of Engaging the Head, Heart, and Hands of a Volunteer. We ask that you please go out and get it, not just to support him, that's just a byproduct, but he's provided this great content to support you and your organization and your ultimate goals of your leadership focus. So again, we thank you for viewing, we thank you for sharing, again, all of the Facebook.com/BizLinksTV, YouTube.com/TV, and again, www.bizlinks.tv to view this episode again, to share it. I know there are many of you, and I really want to call several organizations by name, but I won't put you on the spot like that. Please share this content so other people can be introduced to Barry. Please invite him to come out and be a part of your engaging the community and the leaders and the audiences that your organization does. Great information. I wholeheartedly support what he has to share. And again, we thank you for being a part of Let's Talk Nonprofits. We ask that you continue to do all that you do to make society a greater place to be. And until next time, keep doing your best to be the best.